I'd like to reconvene the meeting of the St. Mary's County Board of Education for Wednesday, April 10th, 2019, and we will begin with the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And Lake is recovering today from illness, so we are fine without our student board member. So Rita, you were first.
All right, so this past week I had the opportunity to attend the 3rd Quarter Battalion NJROTC at Great Mills High School. It was the award ceremony, and then I also practiced pass and review. They are going to be having an inspection coming up from people from, I guess, like headquarters somewhere that come and inspect the ROTC units. It was really great to see. Of course, the parents get to come out and see their students in action, which is really nice. They, like I said, they did the awards, and Captain Randall had said that this is one of the few times when they do the quarter battalion is when the whole group is together. So they got to do a lot of practicing. They did, a couple different things like that to try to get it right for when the inspection comes. So great time for that, great program, and that's it.
I attended the award ceremony for culinary awards at the County Commissioner's office last week with some of my board colleagues, and it was quite interesting. The awards were given both for school systems as well as private sector organizations, and that was quite interesting ceremony. Also, I attended the Friends of the Library book sale. It was last week. I mentioned, I think, once before. The selection was incredible, and I came out. I brought my big Suburban and loaded it up with. I had a hand truck. I had so many books. It was $2 for a hard copy. I think it's $1 for a soft copy, and the selection was incredible. So they had like 3 buildings full of books, and that happens every year, at least once a year, and we enjoyed that. And yesterday I went to the auto show with a couple of my buddies that I work with in DC, and it was, I think yesterday was for veterans. If you're a veteran, you could get in free. The reason I'm bringing it up was the sticker shock that I saw on automobiles. I looked at a Jeep Rubicon, and I'm gonna challenge you to tell me what you think that cost of that Rubicon was.
They're north of $45,000.
This was $57,000 in a Jeep, 4-wheel Jeep that 25 years ago you could buy for like 8,000 or 10,000 or something like that. There is a big push for autonomous vehicles. A lot of electric vehicles, several concept cars, but the thing that really hit me home was how expensive the prices of cars, how they've gone up, and what they're doing now is they're extending financing so that you can buy a $40,000 or $50,000 car that used to cost half that, and you just spread the price, your payments over a longer period of time, and I guess they're selling them. But I thought that was interesting, and that's all I have.
Okay. You're going to talk about the Slack Youth Summit, correct?
Sure.
All right. I will just give a huge shout out to Lake. She did a fabulous job. I mean, in her opening greeting, I mean, she rocked it. She had a speech, but she's like, I'm not going to give it, and she walked around and worked the room. So she was fabulous. And I was with some of the other presenters, and they couldn't believe that she was a senior, B, that she had such poise and presence in front of a group, and see that she was doing it all off the cuff, literally. So she did a great job. Let's see. Monday, we had our School Safety Advisory Board meeting for the month. Talked about two main things. We went over the School Resource Officer training plan. With the adoption of the School Safety Act last year, there was a very short window as to when they could put together the training plan through the Maryland Police Training Commission. So they were kind of, I guess, stuck with that plan for the current year. So now that the board for the Police Training Commission is going to meet again, we can tweak it and make any changes that are necessary. So we spent a lot of time on that. And then the second main topic was that we talked a lot about mental health and suicide prevention in the schools, and what the different tiers of support, how we can support the students, what money is available, some of it coming now down through Kerwin to support mental health. And then we did talk a lot about how the lack of mental health professionals that are available for hire in the state, and then also what we can do to supplement that if a school system can't find a qualified resource, then how can we train or provide training to the people that are already there that the students may trust and confide in, so they can see what the trigger points are or what the risks are that they could identify to then help them get the assistance that they need. So that was pretty much the bulk of our I think they've hired a couple new people at the Maryland Center for School Safety. There's an administrative assistant, and they finally have their finance person on board, which is probably why all of the grant proposals came out in a mad rush in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, and that is all that I have. Ms. Washington?
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I attended the spring St. Mary's County Job Fair, which was held at the Forest Center on a Saturday from 9 to 3 p.m. When HR attended other recruitment events, they invited those candidates and other candidates to attend our particular job fair. Approximately 150 candidates attended the job fair, and all 150 were interviewed. That is a great accomplishment.
One day.
In one day.
One day.
I heard it was said that the candidate pool was highly impressive. All schools were represented with decorated school stations highlighting their buildings, the students, their mascots, achievement, activities, and much more. The parking lot was packed, and the candidates were made to feel comfortable and relaxed. It was a stress-free environment. Outside the Forest Center was a costume official greeter, and he was about 8 foot tall when his people came in, so he provided a relaxing atmosphere. HR interviewed and hired one particular candidate who that day after he was hired said, "I'll volunteer to escort other candidates to their interview." And he currently lives in Arizona. He flew to St. Mary's County to be interviewed. He said he likes St. Mary's County not only for its outstanding student, staff, administrators, and for our community partners, but he also he would appreciate seeing grass and water. And his name is Andy from Arizona. So there was the huge recruitment room representing all the schools, Head Start, special education, fine arts, and PE. I want to thank all the volunteers, the Teacher Academy students. They were there in full force. They did a phenomenal job. Community partners, the NAACP, the Education Employees Credit Union, the Education Association of St. Mary's County, and a huge shout out to Brian, Dale, Rachel, Beth, Tammy, and everyone in Human Resources, and Mr. Egan for hosting the venue, and our building service workers. So we are well on our way to having the upcoming school year fully staffed. HR left no stone unturned.
I'm going to hit several different things, but just very quickly. Mechanicsville Elementary, I attended their multicultural day a week ago. They brought in people representing all areas of the world to do wonderful presentations for the students. I thoroughly enjoyed them. A shout out to the Leonardtown Elementary School Destination Imagination team, who for the first time ever from one of our schools is going to the international competition. They are desperately seeking help in being able to raise the funds needed to go, and so I will do what I can do to provide information to folks, anybody who might be willing to donate. The Gold Star Awards, 92 different, the most ever, 92 different establishments were recognized, and most importantly, every single one of our kitchens was recognized. The Gold Star Awards are awarded only to the highest of the high, the best of the best. I attended the Commissioners Forum last night. They do 4 public forums a year, and I would like to, there are a lot of folks there who were representing St. Mary's Soccer, who were interested in turf fields and the Town Creek Pool. But I really want to say thank you to the folks from St. Mary's County Public Schools, Jill Morris among them, Dwayne Hancock, and others, who took the time to come and thank the commissioners very respectfully for their support of the superintendent's budget. The big public hearing that the commissioners will have comes up in a couple of weeks, and I encourage people to come. What they're doing is a heavy lift, and we greatly appreciate it. And I'm so thankful that there were so many folks from St. Mary's County Public Schools there last night to say thank you and to tell to just make some very compelling comments. And 2 of the commissioners came up to me afterwards and thanked me very much and said how wonderful it was, one in particular. And to all my colleagues and to the superintendent, I did forward to you the latest legislative summary that came out from MABE. It is the initial one that was put together after Sine Die. I think it will be very helpful for everyone to understand what did or didn't come forward, and I will provide some additional information for you in the coming 2 weeks. So that's it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Just to echo, all 29 kitchen sites in St. Mary's County Public Schools received the Gold Star the first time ever. That's incredible. A system is as strong as its weakest link. We don't have a weak link there. That's fantastic. The summit, the student summit that we had last week, I echo, Lake did a wonderful job. So did all of so the way that's structured is there's representation from all 3 high schools that meets quarterly. That's SLAC. There's a smaller group of SLAC that's called the steering committee, and that's a hand-selected 2 or 3 students from each one of the schools that meets almost every single month to plan the quarterly meetings and the summit. They all had integral roles that day as well, facilitating table discussions and transitioning from one event to the next. They did a marvelous job as well. And then in front of all, leading all, the vanguard person is your student member of the board, our student member of the board, Lake Meadows. Just did an incredible job. It really was. It was a great day. A lot of really great conversations. A lot of great work started. We now have to take all of those great ideas that they put together and fashion several public service announcements that will be worked on and completed by the end of the year and then over the summer to release on a whole host of topics. Once they have the PSAs developed and published and polished, they will be then presented across the cable platform that we have in St. Mary's County Comcast Cable, as well as rolling out in theaters and multiple messaging on social media platforms. So it really is, it's a fantastic partnership, and so thank you very much for Tiffany's last name escapes me. Barthelme. How could that skip by Tiffany Barthelme, particularly, who led a very extended conversation with all of the high school students about how to frame messaging, how to develop ideas from scribbles on a piece of paper to a highly polished and put together public service announcement. It was really quite informative. So that was great.
Wait, can I, and a quick
Sure.
thank you to Dr. Marr, because he did coordinate the background.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, he is the great facilitator
Yes.
of all things Slack.
He was, yes.
And as Dr. Barr will tell you, some of the most rewarding work, when you get to central office, you're far removed from students for the most part, several steps removed from students. And ultimately, it's the work that we get to do, that Jeff gets to do, that we all get to do with kids closely and something like that that's exceptionally rewarding. And I know that Dr. Marf, if, not to speak for you, good sir, but that is some of the most enjoyable work. You just put these kids to it, you give them a great idea. We've worked with them for several years. It was their summit, and what a great piece of work. Yeah, we went everywhere. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I'll just submit all of it. Upcoming, we have spring break. Who's excited about that? Because we used exactly our perfect number, 3 days of snow days. We have all next week and Monday off, so how wonderful. Just as a public service announcement, we are using that time frame to relocate the server at Bethune to the new location at Loveville, so there will be an interruption in TAC and HAC service. TAC and HAC will not be available after 4, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Howard, our Director of IT is back there, after 4 p.m. next week. So if you are so enthused about education that you really want to get on HAC, you can do it during the day, but after 4 p.m., take the evening off. Spend some time. I encourage everybody to go on vacation. The marking period ends on Friday, so kids, it is what it is. Parents, it is what it is. The cake is baked. So, yes, we do have the Commissioners of St. Mary's County public hearing is on April 23rd. As soon as we get back, we don't have really an opportunity until then. So on the 23rd, when we come back, it'll be at 6:30 p.m. at Leonardtown High School.
Bring your cushion.
Bring your cushion. We will have boosters out there selling them or renting them. You can rent a cushion. They're hard seats. And the last thing I want to do is I want to just take one quick second to talk about first Miss Deborah Urich. I have a close friend, Ulrich. Deb, who's the in-school intervention para at Greenview Knolls Elementary School. She's been with us for quite a time. She's absolutely wonderful in going about her work. She is incredibly kid-centered and instructional and collaborative, and she is St. Mary's County Education Support Professional of the Year. We got to go down and embarrass the daylights they had a staff meeting last night. So after the buses rolled out, Dr. Montgomery, and myself, we showed up with some flowers, and Principal Fowler gave balloons, and she was, I hope she was touched by the show of support and love. But she is our Education Support Professional of the Year. And Miss Jennifer Cord, 5th grade teacher at White Marsh Elementary School, also who's been with us for about 2 decades. She is the St. Mary's County Teacher of the Year. So she will be representing St. Mary's County all through the, her reign starts as of yesterday, or when we announced it on Monday. And then next year, there's of course that wonderful event at Martin's West, and then she represents us through a whole host of opportunities to interact with colleagues. That was also really wonderful. We had an opportunity to meet her 5th grade classes. They were in the computer lab and all get together in the library.
The MSDE survey.
Taking the MSDE survey. Go surveys. But she's, these are people who, we love to recognize staff, and these are such perfect people. They really are what St. Mary's is all about. They've made a truly impressive commitment to our kids and to our system, and we're just so incredibly pleased to spotlight them. Now, there are still 2 more big slots for the side wall over here, and that is the Washington Post Agnes Meyer Teacher of the Year. We have that person selected, but we're not allowed to tell you until the Washington Post announces, and we believe the Washington Post will be announcing this weekend, right? Or Monday morning. That's also the Principal of the Year, and that will be announced by the Washington Post on Monday as well. So we still have 2 fantastic names to join them, but as of right now, we know that Jennifer Cord and Deb Urich is going to be they're going to be there. Uric. Uric. I need
We'll
to
have to get
change.
that
I need
right.
to change the H to a K, and then I'll phonetically I'll say it right, but I'll misspell it each time. So Miss Uric. So with that, it's been a fantastic couple of weeks. We are really busy. It is April. It is MISA season, and then we go to break, and then we come back, and it's AP and MCAP, and we're just going. I strongly encourage everyone to first be the best version of themselves for the next 2 days, 2.5 days. Let's all love each other and get along really, really well and have a nice strong finish to the third marking period, and then take a well-earned and deserved break. Enjoy interacting. Parents, enjoy your children. We've enjoyed them. Children, enjoy your parents. Get together. Have a nice time. Please take some time for yourself. And with that, thank you very much.
Okay. Dr. Hall. We don't have any public comment.
No public
Okay, just checking for later as she makes her way to the podium. Alrighty.
Good morning, Dr. Hall.
Good morning.
We'll go ahead and open the presentation first.
All right. There I am. Mhm. Okay. All right, good. Don't go too far. There's a little noise. Good morning. It is the week of the young child, and we're very happy to be here. So as a recognition, I'm going to just remind you that the week of the young child is a national celebration of the contributions of young children. What we are doing is opening our application window. It opened Monday to coincide with the week of the young child for our early childhood programs. And so we're talking about pre-kindergarten. We have pre-K 3, pre-K 4, 868 spaces currently. Head Start, we have 165 spaces, 85 for 3-year-olds, 80 for 4-year-olds. We have preschool special education, and certainly our Judy Center wraps around and provides all kinds of family support. And then we have mandatory kindergarten. So our early childhood programs at this time are for at-risk children, based primarily on income eligibility. That's Maryland law, COMAR 13A08. We always advertise that if anyone wants to check. Also, there's a Head Start regulation 1302.12. But we also have the flexibility in the law to look at other risk factors. And so we have revised our risk factor questionnaire this year to really consider some challenges that people face. For example, we had always had separation of a parent. We've now kind of tightened up the language to help folks understand what that can look like deployment of a parent. That is a risk factor. You have to be 3 by September 1. You have to be 4 by September 1. We have pre-K 3 at Carver and Green Holly. Every school has access to pre-K 4. We have 2 grant-funded full-day programs, one at Green Holly, one at George Washington Carver. I have reapplied for those. Every indication is that we will be refunded for those. Head Start, we have 2 half-day 3-year-old classes planned for next year, 1 full-day 3-year-old class. Started last year, it's gone very well. It's at Greenview Knolls. And we have 4 full-day 4-year-old classes. Head Start is regionalized through the county. It's located at Banneker, Green Holly, and Greenview Knolls. Our infants and toddlers, preschool special ed, we do provide service to children, at birth, if that's what is needed. Currently, there are about 225 families that are enrolled. They serve children with diagnosed disabilities ages 3 to kindergarten for preschool special ed, and currently there are 122 students served in that program, and that information is from Mr. Serbiak and Mrs. Kilcoyne. So our common application, all elementary schools are accepting application for an early childhood program for 3 and 4-year-olds. Here's what you need to bring: proof of the date of birth, proof of current residency, income eligibility, proof of immunizations, custody documents if you have them, and a photo ID. We're looking at income and other risk factors. We follow the federal poverty guideline for Head Start. For pre-K, we can follow the farm's income guideline, which is 130 to 185% above poverty. We have a new parent questionnaire to help us with risks. And then what we serve, so that everybody is clear, we have to serve income eligible children first. So those children will be placed, and then we'll start looking at the other risk factors. But we want to run our programs at capacity. So we will serve children that are over income but have a need until we hit capacity. We have a color-coded system just to help schools because it's a lot of pieces of paper.
Yes, you do.
So we also have a database. And this year, as a result of some of our needs assessments, we are offering a Spanish language application support. It's actually today at the Lexington Park Library. And we've got some Spanish-speaking staff at every school, particularly in the Title I schools. Documents have been translated into Spanish. They're available for everyone. But we're going to help people down there today. We even have a notary that's going to be there to help us. This is what parents can expect beginning in June and continuing through the summer. Parents of accepted students will be notified in priority order. We're going to go with an electronic notification system this year if that works for the family. And if they prefer a letter in the mail, we'll do that too. We are going to reserve some spaces because we know our historical pattern for children that arrive that are income eligible, that are homeless, they've moved to the area because of some kind of serious problem. And then kindergarten, under Maryland law, children must be 5 on or before September 1. Kindergarten is a full-day program, and it's located in every school in St. Mary's County. Kindergarten registrations begin in the same part of the window. And here are the documents that you need to bring, essentially the same thing, but not income. We are St. Mary's County Public Schools, and we have a very brief little video from the fabulous Marianne Williams. And I'm ready to put the video up.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Just so you know, I could do this all by myself this morning. It was here. All right.
Make that big.
Did we come out here and change it?
Here we go. I want to just give a shout out to Marianne Williams in Dr. Marr's department. She did that entire thing from pulling the Twitter feeds. So it is real, you know, that nothing was staged. She went in and got real Twitter feeds.
Those are all of our kids.
Yep, and they represent all different schools. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so you said that you save some spaces for, I guess, like foster or low income. Do you save any spaces, not for the Head Start, but for the pre-K 3 and 4, for people moving into the area, specifically military?
We hold spaces for till the end of the summer into early September for anyone that would meet the criteria.
Okay.
So could they be military? Absolutely. But those spaces really are going to end up going to people that are income eligible. And that could be, you know.
Right,
any
I didn't
number
know
of
because a
people.
lot of times this is, over the summer is when they move. And so
Right.
if you fill them all up in June, these people aren't here yet.
And that's exactly why we do hold some spaces.
Okay.
So in June, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and notify the families that are income eligible and they come in. And then, depending on each school's historical pattern, in July, we'll start saying, okay, let 5 more in that are priority 2, and here's the 5 to let in, all the way through until the first part of September. But we'll hold some just for kids that do move, because you're exactly right, they do move in.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Hall, you had mentioned the parents, there was a risk factor for employment. Could you expand on that?
It's a risk factor to determine if there are any challenges for the family beyond income. So it's not really employment, it is a risk factor that might impact them. Parent is deployed as an example. If there is a family history, if there's an ill parent, if there is a medical problem, if a child has diabetes or asthma, those kinds of things. If there's a family history of a learning disability, those kinds of things we look at in terms of what are some risks that really would warrant you being in an early childhood program and would benefit you or your family.
Well, I'm a strong advocate, of course, of early childhood
Appreciate
learning. And there's a lot of studies that show the benefits. But you touched a little bit about the downside, the separation of parents. And I just wondered if there's anything that really pops out where the children are taken away from their home environment, if you will, when they're 3 years old. Does that have any effect? Are you seeing any downside at all, emotional or otherwise, with children that are separated from their parents for the first time when they're 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old?
I'm not sure that I understand the question. Do you mean?
The problem was that you mentioned separation and that you have now clarified that because that was confusing to people. Did that mean that parents were separated on their way to a divorce?
Right.
Or is it that a parent has been deployed with the military and so
whatever.
it really is more, am I correct?
Yes, I think so, yes.
That-
I think that's what you're asking, yes.
Is that there certainly have been studies in the past that show that where there's any kind of unstable or ripple in the child's environment, it can have a long-term impact. And so whatever we can do to mitigate that then serves the child, serves the family, serves the community. Is that?
I think that's what you're asking. Thank you, Mrs. Allen. We also work really hard to have a school family so that the children, if the home is not a particularly stable environment for whatever is going on, what we can control is what is happening at school. So, we've done a lot to really build that culture and climate of school family.
I hear you. I guess where I'm coming from is just the opposite, where the child has this loving and nurturing environment at home. Maybe they've got siblings, and I mean, I've read studies where don't mess with the kids. Let them be children until they get ready to go into school. And I don't know what the answer is, but I just wondered, with your background and the studies that you've done, have you ever seen a candidate that comes in preschool that maybe would have been better off staying at home?
3 and 4 year old programs are not mandatory. So, I believe that for the most part, parents are the best decision makers. They are the first teacher. Have I seen parents say, I don't think my child is mature or ready? Absolutely. But I've also seen parents who have said, I really need some help. I think my child needs the social outlet. They need to learn to get along. So we work with families, but they're under no obligation to apply for these programs.
Right.
But in reality, what I'm seeing is more people would like their children to come to school than we have spaces. And we work really hard throughout the summer to find a space for as many children as possible. So our wait list has been really low. But we will always defer to the parent in a non-mandatory program and work with them. And sometimes they'll say, I don't think my child is social enough for this, but we can get them connected with the Judy Center Play Group as an example, if that better meets their needs.
And the last question I have, you'd mentioned if the candidate in going into kindergarten is not 5 years old on September 1st, does that person have to wait another year before you go into kindergarten?
Well, there's an early entrance process that is followed through the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, that a parent can come in and ask if they feel, for whatever reason, they started school in a different country, they feel the child is advanced. There is a process for that, but Maryland law said this is how old you need to be to come to kindergarten. Used to be December 31st, now it's September 1. Those are the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason I'm bringing this up, I was born in December.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went into school, because I was born in that year, I was admitted before I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some disadvantage of that. My wife could explain that in much more detail, but the fact that I came in at a younger age, I had difficulty competing with kids that were maybe their birthday was in August or something. They were 9-10 months ahead of me, and I just was curious if there was consideration for kids that happened to be born late in the year, and then all of a sudden they're with their peers that are 7, 8, 9 months older than them.
Well, there is always, again, a parent always has the option. There is a maturity waiver that a parent can fill out from Student Services if they feel the child just isn't ready. And sometimes we do see that. Since the birthday is moved to September, some of that with December babies has kind of eased up a little bit. That being said, there is always going to be the oldest child in the class and the youngest child in the class. But in our early childhood, we really pay attention to developmental milestones and try to be really cognizant of that. Over time, it becomes less significant, who's born in January and who's born in, September. But it does, it does make a difference when you're really little. But we do try and accommodate for that.
Well, I think you're doing great work, and
Thank you.
I'm not, the only problem that I have, and don't shoot the messenger here, but I was thinking maybe this great work that you're doing, you're providing babysitting services for a 2-working family. Have you ever seen anything like that, where maybe it's easier for them to put them in an early program than it would be to hire a babysitter or something like that? Is that a fair question?
I mean, a lot of that has to deal with income eligibility. So if you're economically disadvantaged and you're a child of 2 working parents and you don't meet you're 180% or 100, then you don't have an option of putting your child in quality daycare. So we provide an educational service that's age appropriate.
I think the other thing is,
Thank you. That answers my question.
Yeah.
working parents, from the time we went to full-day kindergarten, full-day pre-K, there's a lot of interest in that right now. It certainly provides families with a high-quality early learning experience that lowers their cost of childcare. In many cases, they're still needing to get wrap care on either end. But yes, do I think that families have said this makes life easier? Absolutely. But I think a lot of people said that when their children went to first grade. We saw a lot, as a former principal, we saw lots of mothers who stayed home. Children went to first grade, they went back to work because the children were in school all day.
Well, see, I guess what I see is most important with the brain developing at that time. If especially maybe with the lower income, they might not know how to pass this information on to their child or an activity. And when a child's that young with that brain developing, having them in a place where they are actively learning gives them that advantage, that earlier advantage for that development, and to be able then to be competitive with other children that are able to, like their parents might be able to afford for them to go to, a half-day daycare, or their parents might have that knowledge maybe their parents are, have their bachelor's or master's and be able to, and maybe staying home at that time, to pass that information on. A lot of the lower income aren't able to do that. And I think that this is where then, by the time the child is in kindergarten and first grade, or even second grade by that time, then they are competitive with their peers.
Plus, you can look at student achievement since the time that we've changed the age of entry in the state, that we've provided universal all-day kindergarten, and we've provided many more pre-K seats for students, that student achievement has gone up significantly over that period of time, and you can time it out to when those changes were made. And so when students are successful in the early years, then they experience greater success as they go through school. And so I would rather spend money on the front end and take care of things than I would have to deal with a high school student who wasn't the beneficiary of all these services and is struggling in high school and now is at risk of dropping out. So just personally, I think we've been on the right track, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished. So thank you.
Okay, we've turned this recognition now into an informational
I
aid.
just want to.
Yes.
So,
Before we depart on that, though, I do want to say just one thing. We are going up to 880 PreK Spaces. We only had about 1,200 kindergarten students. So we're providing an opportunity for 75% of all 4-year-olds. We have 33% of our kids are economically disadvantaged. So we are providing a great deal of service. And as the Kerwin Commission and all these conversations talk about how important early childhood education is, we, Scott personally, we are very lucky to have Dr. Kelly Hall chairing this and expanding this every single year. There is no better person for finding and spending funds on behalf of children. She introduced me to the concept of braiding, where you gather up all these little pieces and you braid them together into an exceptionally strong program, and that's exactly what she's done, and what a wonderful thing to be recognized for today.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You done? Oh, well. Anyway, Dr. Hall, I want to thank you for giving some interesting and colorful, informative presentations. You're always thorough and they're always interesting. And when we talked about the risk factors, you have them right here on your handout. And some of those risk factors include serious or long-term illness of a parent. And all of these things can affect a student's social,
Absolutely.
emotional well-being and their readiness for school. Drug or alcohol problems of a parent, premature low birth weight, child exposure to lead, child injury or trauma, domestic violence, child or sibling serious illness, long-term use of medication by a child, hearing or vision problems of the child, speech language problems, concern with child's social, emotional health, death of a child's sibling, that's major, parent of an incarcerated child, child in foster care, single separated divorced parents, adolescent parents, completing high school, parents did not complete high school, siblings with poor school performance and attendance and achievement and discipline, siblings with medical, social, emotional needs, geographic isolation, lack of environmental resources such as health facilities, play areas, retail outlets, parents separated due to deployment, long-term travel for work or health needs, and parent or caregiver is able to transport to and from school. All of those are risk factors and is treated confidentially, and the parents must fill that out, and it's kept in the strictest confidence, so they can say whatever they need to say, because many may be embarrassed to say what's going on in the family, like incarceration, drug abuse, all kinds of things like that. So I believe in early education, the sooner the better. Learning is from the womb to the tomb, as far as I'm concerned. So thank you for the wonderful work that you're doing. And I see the progress in students over the years. Kindergarten is serious learning. In kindergarten, it's not just play like way back. children are prepared for kindergarten. A lot of them are coming to kindergarten already reading. It's just wonderful to observe what the 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and kindergarten students are doing. It's amazing, the growth since I've been on the board, how intelligent they are, how hard the teachers are working and the parents, and these students are brilliant. So thank you for all you do, and all our early childhood education teachers for what they're doing. They're doing a tremendous job, and they're preparing these students, as Ms. Allen say, to get a good solid foundation so they can move on through school, and the investment is better on the front end versus the back end. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, Dr. Marr, we have the month of the military child. And I noticed some schools are already celebrating.
Good morning.
Good morning.
April is the month of the military child. The month of the military child is a special celebration and proclamation that is a legacy of former Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger. It was established to underscore the important role children play in the armed forces community. Our schools are recognizing and celebrating the military-connected student population and their contributions and sacrifices. Students and staff are celebrating the month of the military child with special assemblies and recognitions for military children. We are encouraging everyone to wear purple on Friday, April 12th, this Friday, to honor the military. Of course, purple being the beautiful combination of red, white, and blue. The military child is resilient and adaptable. They are strong and they add strength to others. We recognize the month of the military child, and we share our appreciation to all of our military families who are part of our school communities. And right now I'd like to invite Dr. Smith up here to give a proclamation and present this proclamation to Dawn Simpson, our Pax River School Liaison Officer.
Thank you for being here this morning. This is a fantastic certificate of recognition. I am going to read the resolution, and then if you're so inclined, I'd love for you to share a few words with us this morning, if that's okay. All right, so here we go. Without my readers. Whereas thousands of Americans have demonstrated their patriotism and commitment to freedom by serving in and for our U.S. Armed Services, and whereas there are more than 5,000 military-connected children and youth that attend St. Mary's County Public Schools, and whereas military-connected children and youth continue to make momentous contributions to family, schools, communities, the nation, our state, St. Mary's County, and whereas these children are a source of pride and honor to us all, and it is only fitting that we take the time to let them know they are valued and supported and recognize that military-connected children serve too. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of St. Mary's County does hereby proclaim the April as the month of the military child in St. Mary's County Public Schools and the community. All staff and school staff and students are encouraged to recognize this month as the month of the military child with appropriate ceremonies and activities that honor, support, and thank military-connected families. And it's signed this day, April 10th, 2019. Thank you very much. And if you work. So this is for Production Partnership. I apologize. You just get the proclamation. So there you go. You just get the proclamation. And I should read things before I hand them.
You didn't have your readers.
There you go. Well, that was really big.
Well, thank you.
This has been fun.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, Dr. Marr,
Sure.
Ms. Bailey, members of the board. Thank you for taking time out today to recognize the month of the military child. And not just today, but throughout the month. And as a matter of fact, you do it all year long. We are privileged for the partnership that exists between the Naval Air Station and St. Mary's County Public Schools, and for the continued and generous support that you provide for our military families. And not just to the children, but the impact that the warm welcomes that the principals and teachers provide in their classrooms, and the ongoing support through their frequent transitions and dealing with the separations with their parents when they undergo a deployment. That impact goes beyond just the service that you provide to the children, but it helps our sailors and service members stay focused on the mission. So again, we're grateful for all that you do, not just this month, but all year long, to support our military families and our children. You know, they, in this area, certainly with the frequent transitions, you're accustomed to it, and you mentioned it just in saving space for families because you know that they move in and out of the area all year long. Our military children can change schools between 6 and 9 times between the time they start kindergarten and go through 12th grade. So I'm always pleased to know that they're going to get a warm welcome and a quality education while they're here with us at their time at Pax River and in St. Mary's County Public Schools, and that's because of the great work and continued support that you provide. So thank you for all that you do to support and serve those who serve our country.
Thank you very much. And if you'll stay afterward, we'll take a picture with you. No, you just, it hurts. I apologize.
Do you want to stay up here, Dr. Smith, for this next one?
Yes, I certainly do.
So for over a decade, we have been fortunate to have the incredible support of the Patuxent Partnership in funding our summer aerospace camp. And as we launch this year's summer programs, we have students that are in grades 2 through 11 who have opportunities to participate in hands-on, minds-on activities in the areas of science, mathematics, technology, engineering, and applied creativity. Students will explore topics such as aeronautics, earth science, engineering, rocketry, space citizenship, and coding through classroom activities. Since the program's inception, over 1,800 students have enrolled in the summer program, and the Patuxent Partnership has donated over $250,000 in support, and they are providing another $20,000 for this summer's camp. These funds help to defray the costs for our students and their families who pay to attend the camp, and the funds help to pay for the ongoing costs of new technologies, materials, and staff for the program. This morning, we want to take the opportunity to thank the Patuxent Partnership for their generosity. Joining us this morning is Executive Director of the Patuxent Partnership, Ms. Bonnie Green. Thank you for your ongoing support.
I have a certificate of recognition. And please stay afterwards and we'll get a photo with that with you.
Wait, and I have a check for it, $20,000 for you.
I really feel as though we are the beneficiary of this relationship. If it's transactional, we are definitely winning. And we are winning every day with your partnership. I ask if you would like to share some words.
We're delighted to continue to fund this ever-evolving camp to take in coding and more skills. And it is one of the many areas where we also partner with Navy here, and they provide mentors and support to the program so that it is focused as much as possible on the STEM careers at the Navy as these students progress. And we're looking forward to another great year, and I'm hoping that my daughter is going to be able to enroll this year, but we value very much the partnership. And just to mention that we've gotten several calls from the DI teams, and we're looking to do a little bit of support and to get the word out for that, because that's another incredible program, and it's starting early, and that's what we want to encourage, so we're doing that. So thank you for all you do for the students, and we value our partnership. Thanks again, Scott.
Yes, we can do quick pictures.
Quick for pictures, that'd be fun.
5 minutes. Still no one for public comment, correct? All right. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right. First action item, our world language textbook adoptions. Wendy Hartar, so patiently waiting.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It was right here yesterday.
Gremlins come during the night and they scramble it.
It's actually reduced here, so click on that at the bottom. It's already open. For yours. Oops, what's wrong? Cancel. Hit cancel. Here, we'll go. Next one.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. We just concluded our textbook adoption. We were looking to adopt new Chinese and American Sign Language textbooks. In 2008, we introduced Chinese to our county and American Sign Language, so it's been about 11 years since we have last looking at a new curriculum. Textbooks have been in poor, but they're obviously 11 years it's been. Textbooks are not in good condition. The American Sign Language books, we couldn't get anything past level 1. We can't reorder anything, so it was definitely time to reorder and to take a look at new curriculum. We started the process in December and gathered up a group of teachers to look at the curriculum. We obviously had the Chinese teacher and the American Sign Language teacher, had several meetings, and we put the textbooks in the libraries for the last couple of weeks for public review, and we have not had any comments. We were looking at, of course, the alignment to our standards. We were looking at organization and presentation. When we look at new textbooks, we want them to be pleasing. Of course, we're looking at content and instructional design and equity and accessibility. We're looking at digital features that they offer and things like that. Obviously, the new textbooks, we want them to be aligned to our national standards. We're looking to see how many authentic materials and tasks they offer in their resources. We're looking to see that they're really aligned to our standards and can-do statements. Again, we're looking at world language learning. Textbooks are aligned to national and state standards, giving teachers a program that focuses on the 3 modes of communication: interpersonal, presentational, and interpretive modes, while ensuring students become proficient in the 5 C's. So we started off with the Chinese textbook. There's very little out there, but what we did find that the program that we looked at was Discovering Chinese Pro. It was very robust. We came across this particular program that was full of digital resources. The teacher resources were robust and they were full, along with the student resources, and they have the textbook that goes along with the application. So that's what we're looking to buy. The upper levels, level 4, 5, and AP Chinese, we have some books that we looked at as well, Magical Tour of China. So Discovering Chinese Pro is the textbooks that we would like to purchase for our levels 1 through 4 students. It's inquiry-based, it's student-centered. Like I said, it's full of rich technology, differentiated instruction throughout the text, including basic, slower pace, and more advanced activities. Lots of assessment tools which allow teachers to customize assessments for individual students. Lots of differentiating opportunities there. The Magical Tour of China is more of textbooks made for those level 5 students, level 4 and level 5. designed for intermediate and advanced levels. We have 36 animated lessons in standard spoken Mandarin that correspond to the lessons in the textbook. Integrates culture as a cornerstone for meaningful communication. And the students will be really reading. There's a lot of reading that's involved in those upper levels. They also they will have the opportunity to go online and use the digital resources as well. So for Chinese, we're looking as far as the teaching materials, the teacher editions, the digital program resources, differentiated lesson plans, and of course assessments. And as far as the teaching and the student materials, we've got the textbook, the digital app. Students are going to be spending a lot of time online. There's a lot of speaking and listening activities they can do. When they do participate in a listening activity or a speaking activity, that is recorded in the program and it goes right to the teacher, so it's very user-friendly for both the teacher and the student. Of course, there's video activities, listening activities, grammar, and plenty of vocabulary practice. Moving along to American Sign Language. The current textbooks that we have, we were just having a really hard time reordering and our current textbook, and we really, over the past couple of years, the American Sign Language program has almost doubled. So we have more students taking the American Sign Language, so we were in desperate need of getting new textbooks. We came across Signing Naturally. Our American Sign Language teacher is very familiar with this book, and we also asked across the state, what are you guys using in your other counties? And this is the one that really seemed to be the popular choice. The textbook is called Signing Naturally. It includes levels 1 through 3. It includes a digital library and a textbook. And as far as the digital library is concerned, one of the problems that we're having right now with our current textbook is that it's literally just the textbook, so the students have graphics. And when I was in one of her classes this year, I thought, how great would it be when she's working with students and she was working with a group of students individually. The rest of the students had to kind of look at their own textbooks and kind of figure out, based on the graphics, how to do the signing. And so we just decided that if we're ordering anything else, we have to have videos to go with this so that students can take them home, they can do their work, and they have face-to-face interaction, on the computer with people that are signing. So this particular curriculum allows that. It has a video library, so the students can sit in class and work and practice their signing with someone that's staring right at them, or they can take it at home and do more practice that way. It's inquiry-based, it's definitely student-centered. It integrates culture and language learning, so the students are given real-life scenarios, and as it progresses through the level 1 all the way up through level 3, by the time they get to that level 3, they should be able to go out and this is what we're hoping to do soon, is get them to be able to participate in some of those community activities where they're really signing. So it does give real-life scenarios, and that's exciting. There's lots of story building. Students are learning to build language skills by, expanded student discourse. Lots of role shift variations, formal storytelling, like I was talking about, and of course formal and informal presentations. So, for instance, if they, they're going to be given scenarios where, they're at a community event, for instance, and how would you be able to sign for that? So these particular materials for the teacher, we've got, of course, the teacher edition, the video library, of course, as well. PowerPoint slides that enable the teacher's able to go in there and manipulate the slides and put in and take out material as they feel fit. Lots of digital classroom materials and lessons, and the student, of course, would have the textbook and the video library and practice lessons as well. And the next step, of course, is pending board approval, professional develop is planned for June, the summer, and teachers will have access to all the instructional materials. We made sure of that. We made sure that they would have them here and delivered if we did order them, as soon as possible. And so the cost of these materials, along with the follett cross-docking and shipping, is going to be $72,768.80. And the recommendation is that the Board of Education approve this agenda item as presented. Do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do like the idea of the interactive, especially for the sign language, because it's really hard to look at a book to really get that concept. The other thing too is the students, when they're getting to level 3, I know you were talking about community activities, but what about, are they given the opportunity, let's say when we have student recognition night or National Honor Society, just like a little, a small group of people in the comfort of, I guess, their school, being able to, I guess, practice, you would say,
Yep.
Given that opportunity, has the teacher looked at doing anything like that?
We have, and we haven't really pushed it, but we talked about that this year, that's going to be it's something that we're really going to focus on for next year, that getting these kids, like you said, starting at their own school, award ceremonies, after-school events, things like that, where they can really be a part of that and get some practice in, and then work their way out into doing more formal types of things, and then perhaps getting certified. That would be the ultimate, thing, and they can actually use their skills as a job. So.
Well, I know that, and this is even for the Chinese, but they would have to be 18 and certified. Like I know at the hospital, like when we had somebody that came into the emergency room that needed sign language, we had a list, we had a call list, and that was one of them that was hard to get, was the sign language, and to be able, and to waiting for someone to come in. Or because they might be coming from, like, say, PG County or something, coming all the way down if we didn't have somebody here. So that's, definitely a great skill to have. Thank you.
I agree.
Well, yes, it's a great skill to have, but I wondered the cost benefit. How many students are going to be able to use Chinese sign in their daily lives?
Be able to use sign language
Yeah.
in their daily lives?
Again, don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just trying to think and project what that's going to cost versus how it's going to help the students. Now, my family, my great-grandfather and Dr. Gallaudet were personal friends. I've got a whole book of letters. My grandmother was brought up in a school for deaf and blind, and she taught sign from the time she was a baby. So I'm emotionally part of this, but what I see on TV, for example, they'll have a speaker and they'll have somebody giving sign, when that's wonderful. But how many people in the audience can understand sign versus the cost of hiring somebody for, $60,000-$70,000? So I'm getting down to the cost of what you're asking us to spend on this program versus what benefit. And it's nice to have all this, don't get me wrong, but the benefit of having a student come out and being able to converse in Mandarin using sign, and how many people.
So you're conflating the two. One is
Did I
the
get 'em all?
Chinese.
Yes,
Chinese
yeah.
language is one. And we have a
Different
Chinese
things.
language
Chinese
teacher who
language
teaches
and then
Chinese,
sign language.
and the sign
Well, I
language
know,
teacher.
you're talking sign, right?
Right,
we-
so.
Not signing in Chinese.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, then I apologize. So they're not signing in Chinese?
No.
It's ASL is American Sign Language.
Oh, okay, then
Yeah.
I'm finished with my question.
And I don't have any questions.
No questions, thank you.
Is a wonderful resource, given the world today. And I know we have a great many students who are enrolled in the Mandarin class, and also that American Sign Language is a very popular one for a multitude of reasons. Having worked in the hospital a different hospital, but being able to utilize it myself was very, very helpful. You never knew when it was going to pop up, but when you needed it, you needed it. So thank you for providing this, many opportunities for our students. So I support this action.
Well, and if you are certified, sign language, you are preeminently employable in
Yes.
a host of things, including the direct signing for events. I mean, that is a very thoughtful way to go about being gainfully employed.
Yes, I agree.
Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the adoption of Chinese and American Sign Language textbooks and the purchase of corresponding instructional materials published by Better Chinese Publishing and Dawn Sign Press, including the cross-docking and shipping from Follett, at an approximate cost of $72,768.80.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. And next up is Dr. Marr with adjustments to the 2019-2020 school calendar.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm back. In February, when we presented the calendar, one of the considerations we had was if there would be any changes to legislation that would allow flexibility. And per your direction, after that legislation was passed, we brought the calendar committee back together. So in the recent legislative session, Senate Bill 128 was passed allowing local school boards to set the start and end dates without the restriction of the June 15th closure date. With that in mind, we went back to look at our calendar to look at specific days that we received feedback from staff, from community, from our survey that we did in the fall, and from you all as well. So with that, we're recommending the following changes from the approved calendar as we look at 2019-2020. The first is looking at October 14th, which had traditionally been a parent conference day, and with the reduced days, we had to remove it for a half day. So we're asking that that be returned as a full day parent conference day with no school for students. The second day would be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, returning that to be a day off from school for students and 10 and 11-month employees. When we looked at February, when we presented it before, February 28th was put as the early dismissal day. We want to move that back a week so it aligns with the interim period. In April, when we met throughout the year with our staff advisory group, one of the pieces of feedback that was received was that staff really wanted to have that spring day back for articulation day and professional development. So we're looking to add that back. That is Monday, April 27th, which then eliminates the need for the 2-hour early dismissal on May 1st of that week as well. That would then put our last day of school, including 3 days of inclement weather built in, as Thursday, June 18th, which would be a 2-hour early dismissal. The last day for teachers and 10-month staff would then be Monday, the 22nd of June, and the last day for 11-month employees would be June 29th. So with that, we present these recommendations for your consideration and approval.
I have no questions. Thank you very much for going back and readjusting and revamping it.
No questions, thank you again.
I have two really quick ones. On the parent-teacher conference day, on the Columbus Day, October 14th.
14th, yes.
So traditionally, the parent-teacher conferences are held in the elementary schools. So what are the middle and the high school?
Those are also available as parent conference days. Otherwise, it would be professional responsibilities at those staff sites.
Okay, but there's no professional development
It
training.
wouldn't be a
at that point.
system-wide professional development plan on that day.
But
Correct.
would it be available that across certain disciplines that they could use that as a professional
As a
development
collaborative planning or professional it'd be a staff day for those kinds of activities for, and that I would leave to the Division of Instruction for.
Okay, all right. Because I guess as the calendar gets more challenging next year when Labor Day moves even
Right.
later, just based on the number of parent-teacher conferences, I think we've seen a decline, and even on the elementary side over the past few years. So that would be another day that could become back and available to us.
Yes, and what we'll look at, when we look at the 2020, 2021 and forward,
Right.
we'll go back with a greater detail of feedback through our surveys, through focus groups, through discussions with staff and stakeholders across the system. This year obviously was a lot tighter, so we had only limited parameters when we built this initial calendar, but as we go forward with the greater flexibility, we'll be able to seek a broader input about how those days can be used.
Okay, and then with the addition of the 27th, the 28th is also a holiday because it's primary election day for the 2020 primaries. So I guess I understand it. I don't like it just because it's going to be in the middle of AP testing park, and the kids would have just come back from spring break, 9 days ago. So
I think next year the spring break falls a little earlier, so
right,
we
it's
have a
the-
little
right,
bit of a window.
Right, it's the 6th through the 13th. Then they're in school for those
weeks.
4 days, and then another day, then another week, and then they're on another 4-day weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
What day are you talking about, Karen?
Okay, so the 27th, that's on the calendar.
Of
the 20
April.
of April.
Oh, of April,
The
okay.
28th is also a holiday, or it's the primary day.
Okay.
So-
got it.
So when
I'm just, I'm not suggesting any changes. I just,
Well,
I
when-
understand the thought process. It's just might be challenging for some, whatever park is going to be, as their schedules are developed.
Yeah, the challenge was that it is the 13th through the 17th, they already have that Monday off. The next one is the first full week, and we didn't want to interrupt that.
Right.
We had it originally May 1st, which means that students would be present on Monday, off on Tuesday, present on Wednesday, present on Thursday, off on Friday. And
Right, I'm not,
Yeah.
I totally, it makes perfect sense. I think and you obviously can't change the primary. It's just, it might be
Right.
more challenging for some to schedule those park and exams and keep all the
Right,
students in a
and
rhythm.
and we did discuss when that should fall initially, when we had our original discussions, which is how we landed on the May 1st.
Right.
Early dismissal, again, when that was a day of school, it wasn't an issue.
Right.
If we moved it anywhere into May, then you'd interrupt all of AP exams.
Right,
And so that was your last week of April is really the only small, tight window that you could do something like that.
April's
Right.
just gonna be very choppy.
Right.
Is really what my point is.
Yes.
That great professional word,
Absolutely.
choppy. Yes. So, okay, I don't have anything else.
I will just tell you that the students who are seniors next year, they were really excited about having spring break
Yes,
and
they
then
were.
a 4-day week. They were very much supportive of it, I believe. As Jamie Smith in particular was like, I think this is a great calendar.
Thank you for going back and meeting with the committee. Thank you.
And I really appreciate that we've been able to give the day before Thanksgiving off as we've traditionally done. And thank you, because I know that was a comment that I made when the calendar originally came out. I also appreciate that with these changes, now school potentially will end on June 18th, which is a Thursday, rather than a Monday. And I think we'll have much better attendance and utilization throughout than we would have had we had to end on Monday. I also am glad that it was left that we start school after Labor Day for this year, for the coming year, because parents have already made decisions, and as have staff, based on the original calendar put out. Do you know whether or not the charter school intends to make any changes to their calendar?
I don't believe so. Theirs was already approved with the waiver, so their calendar is set, and I don't believe that they're making any other changes. I do want to add one thing too, that with this new calendar, the 27th of April is built in as a possible inclement weather day too. So we're able to add one more day in case we get a bad winter. So
We'd have President's Day, and then this day,
And then the Monday,
and the
Easter Monday.
So we'd actually have 6 potential days before we'd have to modify the end of the school year.
Excellent. Thank you very much for bringing this forward.
All right, may I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the proposed 2019-2020 school system operating calendar as amended.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Eibel, we have a grant budget for school safety, and Ms. McCourt.
Good morning. Good morning. So Mr. Wyatt isn't here today, so Mr. Eibel and I will be tag teaming. This is a new grant that we just received for a local school system safety evaluation grant. In the current fiscal year's budget, at the state level, there was $2.5 million that was appropriated to be distributed amongst all the local school systems to complete the safety evaluations as required under COMAR. Specifically on or before, flip the slide here, June 15th of 2019 and regularly thereafter, each local school system shall conduct a safety evaluation of each public school. We immediately applied for and was immediately awarded $49,505. This award came through on March 29th and must be expended very quickly by June 30th. Specifically, this grant will fund the following tools to be used for security evaluations: a handheld 2D mapping device solution that captures floor plans in real time, as well as mobile weapons scanning kit used to identify concealed weapons, and that includes the supporting equipment of iPhones and iPads to be used for that evaluation. So at this time, we are requesting your approval of this budget amendment.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you for continually, for the safety and security, continually updating the board on when you're putting it for a grant, and if you get the grant, what you would be using it for. So thank you ahead of time for providing us all this information, as we're going along.
No questions, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for taking every opportunity to apply for grants that are out there. Thank you.
The mobile weapons scanning kit, does it require any special linkage in terms of Wi-Fi or that?
We're working with the company now. I spoke to the rep yesterday. It's very new out into the public. So we're trying to figure out how that would work for Wi-Fi and what they need. Basically, it's an attachment device that goes onto iPad and or iPhone, and basically instead of a standard metal detector, you're able to hold up either the iPhone or iPad, and it has facial recognition that we can download. So if there's a student that's been suspended, that it should be able to recognize that student, that is on premises, that type of thing. And then if somebody does have a weapon on them, it's basically scanning the individual walking, and so as opposed to a regular metal detector where somebody has to scan a wand, they're face to face, they're very close to the person. This product is able to basically just scan from me to you as I hold up the phone. So we're trying to figure out Wi-Fi and what they need on top of that, and like I said, it's very new, going out to the public. So not that we're a test site, but basically they will want feedback from us as to how this product is working.
Have you had any conversations with Sheriff Cameron about this particular technology?
We did. And again, in reference to the traditional metal detectors and weapons abatement, so if this is a product that the SROs, usually they'll have them say posted, their cell phones posted on their body armor at some point. Usually it's directing right to them. This product, if it does what we want it to do, then definitely that's something that we can look into for SROs on top of our safety assistants to have that product.
The reason I ask is that in a conversation I had recently with the sheriff, the county had ordered some equipment that they anticipated using, and they had not had that conversation that was necessary, and it was presenting some challenges.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. I'll be very interested to learn more about this as we go forward.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
I bet. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all.
May I have a motion for the superintendent action item?
I move that the Board of Education approve acceptance of this grant and applicable budget in the amount of $49,505 and submittal of this budget increase to the Commissioners of St. Mary's County for their approval.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. All right. And Ms. McCourt?
Before you is the March end of month report. We have received $175 million of the $220 million budget on the revenue side. And just as of today, we received the final county contribution for the year. Are there any questions on the revenue side?
No.
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 On the expenditure side, we have encumbered or expended $213.6 million with available balance for the remainder of the year, $6.7 million, representing 96.9% of the budget has been encumbered or expended. There is only one area of note, and that is with our health services area, specifically in the salaries. As a result of the planned retirements in that area, there will be a need for a categorical budget adjustment at the end of the fiscal year. Are there any questions?
No, thank you.
No.
Anyone?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, does anyone have anything else?
No.
All right, with that, the next board meeting will be on April 24th, 2019 at 6 o'clock, and we are adjourned.